You might notice something strange about these divers. They're searching for food like clams and sea cucumbers, but they're not wearing any goggles. They have the ability to see clearly underwater, using their eyes like dolphins or seals. But how is this possible? I'm Maddie Massey, and I talk about weird and wacky science. Let's go to the Surin Islands off the coast of Thailand. They are home to the Moken people, who are sea nomads, moving from bay to bay and living on traditional houseboats. The Moken are traditionally hunter-gatherers, and their children would spend most of their days in the water searching for food because they could see underwater. In the late 90s, Swedish researchers started to study the Moken children. They were curious because human eyes are generally adapted to work really well on land, but not underwater. Normally, light travels through the air and enters the eye, and the eye bends the light and focuses it into a focal point which hits the retina and produces a clear image. When we're underwater, the eye isn't as capable of bending and focusing the light. This means that the light doesn't hit the retina in one precise spot. It's actually more spread out, and our brain gets confused and it produces a fuzzy image. So the Swedish researchers tested the Moken children's underwater vision with a special experiment. They placed cards with patterns underwater and then asked the Moken children to describe the patterns. The Moken children performed extremely well, twice as good as a control group of European children. The researchers wondered if the Moken children had some sort of physical difference in their eyes. Maybe they had myopia, a condition where the focal point is actually before the retina. That's because the eyeball is too long or the eye bends light too strongly. This means that on land, people with myopia can see close objects clearly, but distant objects are more blurry. But underwater, crazily enough, the myopia helps them to see more clearly. Anyway, the researchers found that this wasn't the case for the Moken children. They could see perfectly well on land, suggesting that they didn't have myopia. So then, what was the secret to the Moken children's underwater vision? As we swim deeper underwater, it gets darker, and our pupils naturally expand to let more light in. But the effect of this is that our vision gets very blurry. Interestingly, when the Moken children swam underwater, they would actually go against this natural instinct and they'd constrict their pupils until they were tiny little pinpricks. And this actually helped them to see sharper images. And this is something that seals and dolphins can actually do too. The Moken children were able to change the shape of their eye lenses as well to better bend and focus the light. And they were able to do this so well, basically to the limits of human ability. And it wasn't clear to the researchers whether this was something that the Moken children were doing consciously or unconsciously. Interestingly, the Moken adults didn't have extraordinary underwater vision, just the kids. And that might be because adults actually have less flexible lenses, so they're less able to change shape. Nowadays, the lifestyle of the Moken people is changing, and the children are spending less and less time in the water. I wonder whether this extraordinary ability to see underwater will actually remain in future generations.